The film begins at a cartel laboratory. James Baker, an expert agent, leads a DA SWAT team as it prepares to enter the lab. The sniper eliminates the first guard, signaling the SWAT team to move ahead. Upon their arrival, a heavy gunfight breaks out between the crooks and the SWAT team. As the cops seize control, the crooks retreat downstairs. James and his team follow, methodically eliminating the criminals. After dealing with the most of the Mexican cartel members, James orders the last surviving thug to drop his firearm. In a brief interruption, another criminal catches James off guard with a knife but is quickly apprehended. The opponents are eventually vanquished, but James discovers that 3 captives were accidentally killed. He has been allowed leave to rehabilitate after suffering from hallucinations and PTSD-induced nightmares as a result of the unfortunate incident. After a long separation, he is reunited with his wife and 2 teenage daughters, Natalie and Jennifer. The scene then changes to Johnny, an incarcerated criminal who is about to be released. Inside the prison, a furious group pursues him for past offenses. Johnny, a former Iraq and Afghanistan soldier, easily overcomes his attackers and calmly starts a cigarette. He persuades the authorities of his new beginning by demonstrating better behavior, and he is released. Meanwhile, James eats with his family, his conscience weighed down by memories of the hostages. Later, his daughter, Jennifer, plan a brief trip to the mountains, appreciating the importance of spending time together. Back in the prison, Johnny's pals come to pick him up and drive him home. During the car ride, they ask about the money he had put away before his imprisonment. In a startling flashback, we learn that Johnny had hidden $3 million in a mansion. As fate would have it, James and his family now live in the same house where Johnny buried his riches. Unbeknownst to them, Jennifer discovered the money and began using it. With their newfound fortune, Jennifer plans a vacation for their parents. One evening, as Jennifer removes additional money, Natalie notices it and asks where she got it. They fight, with Natalie saying they should not touch the money if it is not properly theirs, and Jennifer claims it is now hers because she discovered it. Meanwhile, Johnny and his buddies travel to meet his brother, underlining the importance of retrieving the money discreetly and without drawing notice. That evening, the gang arrives at James's home. A man steps out of the car and thoroughly inspects the surroundings. When he returns to the car, he tells the others that there are 4 individuals inside. Just then, James, who had been sleepwalking, awakens abruptly and takes his gun. He descends the stairs and fires a shot through the window that the gang attempted to break. The 3 invaders flee quickly, startled. James recovers full awareness, startled by the incident. His wife awakens and takes the gun. Overwhelmed by remorse, he recommends leaving to assure their safety, but she refuses. The next day, James's old pal, Sebastian, pays him a visit for a drink and a chat. James confides in Sebastian, urging him to stay behind to protect his family in case he loses control again. He seeks help from a doctor, who assures him that his reactions are normal following such a traumatic event. Meanwhile, Johnny's associate informs him about James's past. Johnny then seeks the assistance of a friend, a sheriff named Alexander, offering him a 10% piece of the $3 million. James consults with the psychologist, who suggests a vacation with his wife to help him relax and recuperate from the trauma. One day, James is taken to the police station, where Sheriff Alexander informs him of an arrest warrant. However, James notices that the warrant lacks the judge's signature, making it invalid. Alexander phones Johnny, admitting that the scheme failed and that James is free to leave. That afternoon, James and his wife are setting off for a holiday, leaving their 2 girls at home. As they drive away, one of the henchmen gets out of the car and pretends to inspect the engine. Meanwhile, Dominic is anxious to enter the mansion. In the evening, the henchmen arm themselves, oblivious of what is about to happen. Jennifer had planned a party, bringing a group of friends over. However, the henchmen appear unconcerned and have no intention of abandoning their purpose. James and his wife are still on the road. However, James is troubled by flashbacks to the incident. His wife notices his anguish and asks what happened. James describes how, after dealing with the crooks, they learned that they had accidentally killed 3 hostages, a woman and her 2 daughters. His wife tries to console him, telling him it was a horrible error that might have happened to anyone. Natalie stays in her room during the party because she is uncomfortable. Inadvertently, she knocks over a light and discovers a box hidden by Johnny that contains a large sum of money, a valuable ring, and a woman's photo. Natalie decides to undertake an online search for the former occupants of the home. She comes upon an article about Johnny's arrest, along with a photo of the woman, who is most likely his ex-wife. Natalie, determined, decides to store the package in her computer case. She contacts James's friend Sebastian, determined to show him her discoveries. She also informs him about Johnny's apprehension, and he tells her to remain composed. One of the henchmen takes pills to strengthen his resolve before departing on their mission. The other men are worried about him, believing he may do something terrible if he loses control. Natalie tries to contact her father immediately, but the network fails her. She leaves a message requesting that he call back immediately. The goons approach the residence wearing masks to conceal their identities. They come across 2 teenagers in a car. One of the henchmen kidnaps the boy, as the girl tries to run. Sadly, Dominic shoots her. Sebastian realizes something is wrong and tells the remaining teenagers to go home. A young man steps outside to relieve himself, but Dominic discovers him and shoots him dead. The goons then break into the house, while Dominic continues his brutal attack on the teenagers. Natalie hides herself in her room and seeks refuge beneath the bed. She dials her mother's number, and James answers. Regrettably, he struggles to hear her clearly and promises to call back shortly. His wife pushes him to redial, but they are unable to receive a signal. Dominic aggressively enters Natalie's room and finds her hidden beneath the bed. As James finally receives a signal, he discovers Natalie's alarming message regarding intruders in the house. James is confused whether he is having another hallucination or whether it is real. He plays the message to his wife, who confirms its legitimacy. Attempts to contact Sebastian prove ineffective, causing them to make the quick choice to return home. Meanwhile, the henchmen continue to look for the hidden money within the house. Once they have gathered the booty in the kitchen, one of them notices a serious problem. They had found everything but Johnny's deceased wife's ring. Furthermore, Johnny's brother claims that $100,000 is missing from the $3 million they were tasked with finding. He approaches Jennifer and inquires about the missing money, but rejects knowing about it. Fortunately, the other henchmen eventually find the remaining money hidden behind a wall. Meanwhile, despite being bound, Sebastian eventually manages to free himself. Sebastian quickly takes down Johnny's sibling, throwing him to the ground. Sebastian slams his skull on the floor before firing a fatal shot. Just as Sebastian takes the upper hand, the other henchman steps in, delivering a strong kick to the head. The henchman contacts Johnny and delivers the devastating news of his brother's death. Meanwhile, in the streets, a furious struggle rages. Ray, Johnny's old acquaintance, gets into a vicious altercation with another opponent. Ray is victorious and reunites with Johnny after years apart. Johnny explains the sorrow of his brother's death and asks them to accompany him since he has a duty to do. Later, Johnny and his gang of goons invade James's home. Johnny finds his brother's motionless body, grabs a knife, and brutally terminates Sebastian's life. He seizes Sebastian's phone and calls James, who says that any harm to his girls will seal Johnny's fate. James swiftly tells Johnny that he is on his way and will be waiting for him. Johnny leads Natalie to her room, where she hands over the box containing the ring. Meanwhile, James and his wife have returned home. He urges her to stay in the car while he approaches the offenders. As he approaches the residence, he is observed by 2 henchmen in a car. One of them emerges to investigate, but James, hidden beneath the car, quickly incapacitates him. The other thug tries to exit the car, but James overpowers him, knocking him out. James moves past the house, eliminating 2 more opponents. As he continues on his journey, a henchman sneaks up behind him and attempts a headshot. James strikes quickly, subduing the assailant. Shortly after, he receives a message from his wife, notifying him that she has called the police. Outside, Dominic finds the motionless bodies. James bravely enters the house and locates his first daughter, pushing her to flee outside for safety. A henchman then attempts to attack him, but James sees his shadow and quickly eliminates him. Meanwhile, Johnny and his team learn of James's arrival. When Ray spots James, he challenges him to a hand-to-hand fight. Although James inflicts a few wounds with his dagger, Ray disarms him. Nonetheless, James perseveres and, with 2 powerful blows to the head, defeats Ray. Dominic enters the house armed, but James takes advantage of the situation and surprises him. Dominic attempts to fire, but James redirects his hand, shooting him dead. James moves upstairs. Inside, a henchman named Trey holds Natalie captive, threatening James with her life. Unwavering, James points the gun towards Trey and kills him with a single shot. He then cuddles his daughter and encourages her to go downstairs. James cries out Johnny's name, claiming that only the 2 of them remain. He flings Trey's lifeless body into the room, causing Johnny to fire a few shots. This sets the scenario for a brutal hand-to-hand battle in which James unleashes a barrage of blows. Just in time, Alexander arrives at the scene. James effectively persuades him to kill Johnny, suggesting they split the money and make their getaway. The officer agrees and dispatches Johnny. However, as James's wife arrives, she quickly neutralizes the Alexander with a gunshot. Finally, authorities arrive to ensure James and his family's safety. They emerge from the house unhurt and safe, bringing the movie to the end. Thanks for watching. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe for more of these recaps. Until next time, have a nice day.